The Bengals are heavy underdogs entering Monday Night Football this week, but they've been here before, and in this video, I'll explain the one thing that they absolutely need to do. What's up, Bengals fans? John Sheeran of A to Z Sports Cincinnati here, and there have been many a time in the Zac Taylor era where I haven't given the Bengals a single fighting chance. And I'm not just talking about before Joe Burrow was drafted or during his rookie season when he was injured and they had freaking Brandon Allen in there for him. There have been times, even with Burrow fully healthy and playing well, where I just didn't think the Bengals had what it took to win on certain stages against certain teams. And that is what I think encapsulates the Zac Taylor Bengals for me, is that they have a tendency to surprise me in both good and bad ways. And I think the biggest surprises have normally come directly after some of their most embarrassing performances, or perhaps in games in which the importance has been heightened to a certain degree. And that is very much what I sense for this Monday night's game against the Denver Broncos. Everybody wondered if the Bengals could actually get to 2 wins at this point in the season, but no one really expected them to be 2-1 and to be a massive underdog on Monday Night Football. The Joe Burrow injury definitely threw a wrench in those plans, but even still, when Jake Browning is in there, you don't expect the Bengals to be this kind of bad. But that's the narrative right now, very much fueled by the catastrophe that we all witnessed in Minnesota. This week feels very similar to the lead up of another recent Monday night game the Bengals had against the Jacksonville Jaguars back in 2023. Nobody expected the Bengals to be competitive in that game. The Jaguars were on their way to making the playoffs, and the Bengals were entering Jake Browning's second career start. And sure enough, the Bengals took the Jags to overtime in Jacksonville and won 34-31. All the way back in 2020, the Bengals were riding a 5-game losing streak, including 2 starts without Joe Burrow at the helm, and they were about to face the playoff-bound Pittsburgh Steelers at home under the bright lights of primetime. And what happened? Somehow Ryan Finley became the hero of Cincinnati that night, and the Bengals won. There are other examples of this team under Zac Taylor defying expectations, but in pretty much all of them, they have shown a resounding fight to survive. And it's also in some of those games in which you can trace back to certain moments that really identify where the culture has been built with this team. And as the years go on with this team not being in the playoffs, that culture continues to become more and more important, or alternatively, on the verge of being broken apart entirely. And that's why this week, following a 38-point loss, the worst in franchise history, going on the road in primetime as 7.5-point underdogs as the entire country watches you, nothing matters more to me than to see this team fight. We could all break down the actual keys to this game. Orlando Brown Jr. going up against Nick Bitonio, whom he shut down last year on one knee. The fact that T. Higgins needs to have another great game, as Jamar Chase is probably going to be shadowed by the best cornerback in the game in Pat Surtain. The fact that Bo Nix is one of the worst quarterbacks under pressure this season, and frankly, he's not the best decision maker when he's got a clean pocket. All of that matters, obviously. All of that is important to the Bengals notching a win here. But after last week, when they were punched in the shin, the mouth, and the gut simultaneously, honestly, what is more important, what is more meaningful than to just show up and fight your butt off? To simply not be embarrassed 2 weeks in a row, knowing that for sure there's some fading confidence in that locker room with the current quarterback at hand. Perhaps even with the coaching staff and their lack of plan to get this offense back on track. What is more important than just showcasing heart in the face of adversity? How much are they really owning what they showed last Sunday against the Vikings? We're going to find out Monday night. I have no idea if the Bengals can win this game because I have no idea if this offense has what it takes to look like a functioning unit. But if they call it quits in the middle of this game like they did last week, then this season is destined to be a disaster.